Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very, very accomplished professional from Seattle, USA, Brenda Umana. Brenda, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Brenda is the founder of Om Marketing, and she's a yoga and a meditation educator. So, Brenda, let's start talking of the mind marketing, which is OMM. Tell me about this venture and what was your motivation to start it?
Yeah, so Om Marketing is a marketing consultancy, mostly working with heart-centered businesses that are looking to make a big impact or are making a big impact in the world. And we offer strategic services that lets them differentiate themselves amongst the market. And the way I got into this was a bit organic. I perhaps wasn't going out thinking I was going to do this. And I think my unique combination of skills is how this happened, or how this venture ended up happening, where at the time when I was kind of starting off on this, it wasn't really a thing to have mindfulness be in partnership with business or in partnership with communication, the way that we communicate online. And even though it wasn't that long ago, it just wasn't exactly a thing. And so I was very perhaps adamant about keeping my skills and keeping my business background, my mindfulness background, and my health background kind of combined into one. And just kind of like in a snowball effect, people started organically reaching out, and that's how Om Marketing started.
Wow. And what are the challenges in building a digital brand?
Yeah, that's such a good question, especially in our time where digital presence is so needed. And instant gratification is also so present in our modern lives. And I think one of the main challenges is our ability to be steadfast with our marketing or our digital presence. We get perhaps shiny objects around the internet dissuade our attention from what our purpose or what we're meant to be doing. So from a digital standpoint, we may try one thing and that didn't work, so then we're going to try something else. And then our attention just keeps going that way, and we don't have a clear vision and a steadfast route to keep going down. I would say that's it right now in our modern times.
And one of the big challenges every marketer faces is this huge number of social media platforms that are available. How do they determine which is the right one for them?
Yeah. I would say it's going to depend, obviously, for every business. But I want to make sure that we're asking ourselves as business owners or as marketers the right questions. And I would say the first question is, knowing who your audience is. Who are you trying to offer your services or your product, if you have a product, right? Who is that person or that group of people? And number two, what is your modality or your product? So a lot of the heart-centered businesses that I work with offer things like yoga or Reiki or coaching, those types of services. So knowing your modality or your product. And then third is knowing how your modality or your product translate well. So an example that I'd like to give is like, let's say you're a break dancer. You're a break dancer, you need to show off kind of your moves, how you move with your body. So a podcast or a social media channel that amplifies voice, like a podcast, wouldn't be that great for a break dancer. They need to be maybe more on like YouTube or Reels or video to show off their moves. So I think having those three pillars of your audience, your modality, and then how to translate your modality on digital space is going to determine or help you not spread yourself too thin on all the social media channels, because that's the last thing you want, is to just be on all of them just for the sake of being on them.
Correct. And the speed at which social media moves, I mean, it's in nanoseconds. How does
Yes.
one manage to keep the attention of your potential consumer?
You're not. You're not. So the point is to create your business and your brand
Mm,
really strongly outside of
mm,
these social media platforms,
mm,
because those social media platforms are a way to amplify
mm,
your message.
mm,
So your message is your message, and there's various ways to get your message out. You know,
mm,
there's websites, there's email, there's different ways that you can get your message out, and
mm,
social media is simply going to help you amplify that
mm,
message.
mm,
So let's say that you do have a blog or you have a website, you can share snippets of that message
mm.
creatively through social media, and then you can stay on top of the trends because those are just changing, but your
Right.
message isn't changing.
Well said. Well said. Great response. And when you go in to work with any brand, what are some of the factors you keep at the back of your mind when you are helping them to build their brand?
Mm, that's such a good question. You know, I think that I continually ask that question of what is our core message? What is our differentiator in the market?
Mm,
And how do we want to convey that in, you know, we can take like a 6 month campaign or a six
mm,
month window.
mm,
And maybe in that 6 month, we say, okay, we're not going to actually do social media because X, Y, and Z. So I really just want to always go back to those foundational aspects of marketing
mm,
and be very, I guess, wise with our time, wise
mm.
with our intention
Right.
around how we're going to share and amplify that message.
Right.
Yeah.
Very interesting. You also say that you do work with people to help increase lead generation. Uh,
Yes.
Tell me what you do and give me an example.
Yeah. So, just for a little bit of background, lead generation just generally means people coming into your business
Correct.
as opposed to you reaching out
Hmm.
to business. Just for anybody that might be curious, like what does
Hmm.
that even mean? So that's what lead generation is,
Okay.
and a very specific or a couple specific ways to do that to bring in those leads are what's known as a lead magnet.
Hmm.
A lead magnet lives on your most likely your website, and
Hmm.
it's a very specific exchange that you do with people that are interested in your market or in your
Hmm.
service.
Right.
And you want that lead magnet, and we've probably all stumbled on them. Download this, blah, blah, blah.
Mm,
You know, get on my email list and receive
mm,
this. So we've
mm,
seen that. But the last thing you want to do for your business is to create a boring or a not helpful
mm,
exchange. So you
mm,
want to know exactly what your audience needs.
mm,
I need to feel calmer, right? If I need to feel calm, what is going to
mm.
help me feel calm?
Yeah.
Oh, they might need some meditations, or
Yeah.
they might need, you know, so you create something very thoughtful that
Mm,
showcases your modality. And
mm,
then that's one way to bring in more leads.
mm,
How you follow up with them and convert them into a
mm,
client is a different
mm.
story.
Fascinating. Fascinating.
Yeah.
So, I've learned a new term called lead magnet from you. But is this what in the old days we used to call to action?
No,
No.
actually.
Okay.
Call to action is another really good marketing term that
Okay.
simply means give people an action to do,
Mm,
whether it's in your writing, in your captions, on
mm,
your website. You know, you want to place strategic actions for people to take.
correct.
Um, and you know, one of the actions on your website might be download this,
Mm,
you know, free service or free
mm,
downloadable thing.
yeah.
But it's a different kind of two different approaches.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, Brenda, now let's move on to your other avatar as a yoga and a meditation guru. First, tell me what got you started with yoga? And before that, I mean, I'm just assuming that your own marketing comes from yoga.
Very much so. I
Okay.
mean, I think I joke or I say that I would not be who I am today if it weren't for yoga. So yoga has is my through line,
Mhm.
essentially, is my through line in everything that I do in my
Mhm.
life. And I started now practicing, or I got into yoga now maybe close to 13 years ago.
Okay.
And I was working as an accountant in a corporate setting in San Francisco, California. And they offered corporate yoga on site. And that's how I got the yoga bug. And after that, now I can reflect back and see that something else was calling me, but I essentially quit my job without really knowing what else was next, because I didn't feel that that was my path. That wasn't my path. So from there, long story short, essentially, it's where I am now. And yoga to me is just a lifestyle, and it's a way to live life, and it is a moment, or lots of moments actually, because it's all of our lives, but lots of moments to be able to sit in our own true purpose or true essence. Yeah.
And what, you said you started or you were introduced to yoga 13 years ago. What is happening as a result of which yoga is getting so important for a lot of people in the Western world?
Yeah, it's an ancient practice, right? Yeah. And it is just now becoming modern or popular. And I would say what's happening is people need it. People are craving inner connection. People are longing for truth, and truth that is beyond what we can read and comprehend. They need to experience it in their heart. And they're craving for that, but they don't know what is happening. And so yoga starts that conversation inside. It begins the inner conversation of just hearing beyond the noise that we're full of in our digital and modern life. And I think that's why it's becoming so popular.
Very interesting. And yoga, in its true meaning, is really the reunification of the soul with the higher power. But whenever I speak to people who are yoga, who are practicing yoga, they basically talk of the asanas and the pranayams.
Yes.
Why is it that such a narrow vision of view is taken of yoga rather than the much larger vision? Because it's a way of life.
Exactly. And I think it's unfortunate, but it's also, I think, two things. One is our modern life has our body very tense. It has our eyes strained. It has our neck and our hips and all that. So we feel very physical, and we can't get past that. We can't get into the other parts of yoga. And
so, Brenda, you're also an educator on meditation. For our viewers and listeners, tell me, what is meditation?
Oh gosh. The way I'm going to answer is through the lens that I have studied from yoga. So the lineage of yoga is what informs my definition of meditation. And meditation is essentially the observation of our mind and being present with ourselves to be able to distinguish between who and what is thinking, or who or what sense of I or what sense of myself or other is thinking. And oftentimes in our modern life, we think, oh, I can't meditate because I have too many thoughts, or, all those things that we think that we can't. But that is the process of meditation, is to observe ourselves. And that happens through our thoughts and our mind.
Interesting. And what is the best way someone can start to meditate?
The best way is to just start, honestly, to simply sit and observe your thoughts. Don't let those thoughts feel like you're not meditating. The process of sitting down, being in stillness, quieting down, ourselves, not necessarily quieting down what surrounds you. It simply means quieting down the phone, quieting down all the things that we do to keep our body busy. But if we simply start to just observe and slow down, not touch our phone, that can start to reveal the process of meditation. Because I do think meditation is a process and a practice. We won't fully grasp it or understand it just from one or two times or even years. Again, it's a life, like yoga, it's a life practice. It's a life journey.
Well said. And one more question on meditation before I move to another segment. How does meditation help us?
In so many ways. On the one side, health and research and everything is showing us and maybe giving us more confidence that this is helping us with stress, with sleep, with relationships and work. And that is great to know, but remembering that this is an ancient practice. This practice has been around for centuries, years, before science could validate it. So it helps us in some ways to those big questions that we may have of life that happen over time as you practice and quiet down. It'll start to reveal things within yourself that will just lead you into new directions of yourself, your life, and your work or business or whatever it is.
Wonderful. So I'm now going to move to a few questions for you personally, because my audience loves to get to know my guest a little better. My first question to you is, what would you say are 3 key milestones in your life or your career?
Number one, 3 key milestones. Yeah. Number 1 was quitting my job, even though I didn't know what was next. I just got that intuitive moment to say something, this is not my path and my path is something else. So that was 1 key milestone. Number 2 was, after that key milestone, I still wasn't sure what I was going to do. So I went to school to get a master's of public health. And that was a key milestone because it made me realize that everything is health. What we touch is health. The streets we walk on are health. How close my grocery store is health. And so it just broadened my perspective on how I can teach people that what is health, what we're doing, everything we do is health. And then number 3 key milestone, I would say, is these practices that I'm talking about, is having that through line and steadiness and steadfastness to keep me present, to keep me going, to keep me grounded when life is not sometimes. Our human experience is not. We've got COVID, we've got war, we have so many things around us that can quickly sway us into different parts of our human experience. So these practices really keep me going.
Fascinating. My next question to you, Brenda, is, what does success mean to you?
Yeah, and it goes kind of back to, I guess, my career advancements. It's that steadiness. Success to me is steadfastness. It's having the ability to continue to kind of go really slow up the hill of life and career, without getting too swayed off of the path. So that steadfastness is really important. And number 2, I would say, is fulfillment. Success to me is fulfilling what feels right and fulfilling to me. And sometimes that fulfillment doesn't always mean the highest amount of money or other things that we might societally think are successful. So it really does mean to move in a path of fulfillment. And fulfillment means to me different things at different parts of my life.
Fantastic. I have time for 2 more questions. Who or what inspires you?
I say, what inspires me is experience. Experiencing these practices, I love to travel. So going out and traveling, whether it's abroad, whether it's in my own city, just really experiencing life and culture. I would say that is really what inspires me. And it can happen, like I said, in practices, in books, with people, with teachers. I think, I would say that is what inspires me.
Amazing. And my last question to you, Brenda, and this is for the many, many people who will listen to our conversation. Based on your amazing journey, what would you say are 3 lessons you want our viewers and listeners to take away?
I want everyone to remember that the steadfast message, the steadfastness that we need, right? We need to be steadfast in our purpose, in our path. And we might be swayed a little bit, but it's really important to keep trekking. The second is remembering that when it comes to mindful marketing, and that's part of what I offer, right, is that marketing is all about testing. And I often refer to it as like a spiral. So we're constantly in spiral of life, but in marketing, it's you try one thing,
Yeah.
you see if it works, and then if it doesn't, or if it does, you learn from it and do it again.
Yeah.
So remember that everything is a moment to learn. And 3, I would say to maybe try yoga or meditation, that it's more than what we may see as like, oh, just the asana, or oh, just, sitting down to meditate. That there's a really big depth to these practices, that they can take you in any direction that your body, mind, or spirit desires.
Amazing. Brenda, on that note, and your 3 amazing lessons of be steadfast in whatever you do. Marketing is all about testing. And the 3rd one, try yoga and meditation. Thank you for speaking to me about your incredible journey, about your organization, mindful marketing. Thank you also for speaking to me about yoga and meditation, and telling me new things like lead magnet.
Magnets.
New thing I learned today. So thank you again for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you so much. So great to meet you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.